Okay. So, hi everyone. Welcome to today's webinar where we will be diving into a topic that hits home for all of us. So, basically, we will be talking about how to build a startup while working a full-time job. And yeah, I am your host, Dibanshi. I'm the head of sales and marketing at the Codework. And we have an exciting session planned ahead. So I'm thrilled to introduce to you our guest speaker, Tara. She is a startup coach who has helped countless individuals, take this transition from full-time to startup and also, maintain the balance as well. So, welcome, Tara. And can you give us a brief introduction and how and what excites you about this topic today?
Thank you, Devanshi. Nice that we're doing this together. I'm thrilled to be here. I hope that whoever's logged in today makes the most of this 1 hour. Our goal is really simple. I'm going to share some tips, tricks, strategies on how you can leverage your time building your own business while you're still working. I've been a startup coach for the past couple of years, so I've worked with people exactly like you. I've helped them overcome the stage where you're stuck, which is going from having this sense of wanting to do something but not knowing what to do next. So
Right.
I've also been in the same shoes myself many years ago. I
Mhm.
currently own consumer brands and I help people start their own business. So yes, I'm an entrepreneur myself, but I'm also a coach. Um,
Okay.
my goal is very simple. Why do I like doing this? Why am I passionate about helping others get to where I am at? I feel that entrepreneurship is very misunderstood in today's day and age. There are all these misconceptions of you need a lot of money to start, you need to quit your job to start, you must have a
Right.
significant level of expertise in the field before you can like build anything. You need lots of paying customers from day zero. So part of today's goal is in showing you the way and busting your myths and misconceptions about whatever it is that is holding you back. Every time that you don't believe me or have a doubt on what I'm saying, just remember I was just like you. I started from actually quitting without knowing what I want to do next. All I knew is that I could not go back to a job where I got paid really well, but I didn't have the passion to just, after a point, money ceases to excite you. You want to do something more with your life, you want to build something on your own. So that's really my goal today, to help you find clarity, give you practical solutions on and without burning out. How can you start a solo one person business mostly over your weekends without giving up your
Mhm.
full-time job? So that's a bit
Right.
of me and why I like doing what I'm doing.
Perfect, perfect, Tara. So yeah, as you said, the idea of building something and having owning something on your own, and that also with financial stability is appealing and challenging as well, I believe. So today we will be breaking down the common challenges and offer some practical solutions. So diving in, Tara, I would like to know what inspired you to, transit from corporate to entrepreneurship.
This is the one question I get asked a lot.
Yeah.
Um, I actually used to have a corporate job in the HR side of running a large Indian mortgage finance company, and I did that for many years. I
Mm-hmm.
never left because I didn't have good colleagues or I had a bad boss. I was actually paid pretty well as well. But that
Mm-hmm.
feeling of not being fulfilled from within, that there's more to me, there's this, you can call it a passion, you can call it a fire in the belly, there's this want to create something of your own. Um,
Yeah.
Knowing full well the risks of giving up the safety net of a paying job. When I started 10 years ago, my inspiration was basically I was in Bangalore. All my friends who quit the corporate world had their own startup. And I was the only one
Yeah.
who kind of didn't jump on that. So
Hmm.
partly my inspiration was that if they can do it, why can't I? Um,
Right.
what I didn't have figured out was what am I actually going to do. So
Mm-hmm.
unlike today, 10 years later, where people don't have to quit in order to start, the environment today for starting anything solo is far more encouraging and easy to break into. So, in
Okay.
many ways, my own inspiration came from within, wanting to build something of my own. Um,
Okay.
and I guess I was that fed up, despite having a good job, that I was done with the safety net that comes with a corporate job. But Again, you don't
Okay.
really have to give that up. You can very well use that paycheck to fund your experiments and when
Hmm.
that scales. What I usually tell my clients is when you start something,
Yeah.
there's one metric that you have to keep in mind. The moment your own venture, which you're running, I'm saying part time over weekends, you've put systems in place, when it hits a crucial mark of it is now supplementing 70 to 80% of what I already make from my job, that is the time that you should ask yourself, do I want to now quit to do this full time, or should I just continue the way I'm doing it? Uh,
Right.
Most of us, are just not sure of, I'll quit, but what is life like when I start? You don't need to quit.
Hmm.
My inspiration when I started was basically in many ways freedom. It was
Okay.
time freedom, it was financial freedom, it was also just creative freedom to build something from scratch, and actually build something from an idea up.
That's really great, you know.
Mhm.
Basically the want to do something on your own,
Yes,
if I can summarize it.
yes.
Okay. Okay. So you must have faced some initial challenges, right? Because you didn't know what you were going to do when you made the transit. So what would that be?
When I started working on my idea in 2014. It only went live in the market in 2015. My biggest challenge
Ah,
like, despite what people will think, oh, it was financial, you need money to start, it was just going from having not just one idea, I had multiple ideas. I didn't have a way to kind of figure out, for lack of a better word, how to validate it. How do I
okay.
validate the feasibility of each idea? And even if all the ideas are really different, how do I
Hmm.
figure out if this version of the idea is right for me to launch?
Yeah.
It's and I'm sure there are a lot of people who are on the webinar today are at the same stage. I have ideas, multiple ideas. I don't know how to validate amongst my own ideas. Forget knowing what to do next. I just don't have a way to go from five ideas to two ideas and then really saying I'm going to focus on two ideas.
Um,
And one of the concepts that I learned along my journey was what now everybody calls MVP, right? Which is, how do I
uh-huh.
validate and build the most basic minimum version
Mm-hmm.
of something that I can get others to test. Now, whether that's a service,
Yeah.
product, whatever that offering is, I'm not just talking about
Hmm.
it, trying to like get the other
Hmm.
person to understand. I'm putting it in front of them, letting them demo it, letting them sample it, letting them test it out. So looking back, I think my biggest problem was, how do I validate ideas? What does it take to even build an MVP? And honestly, back then, I didn't even know what an MVP was. I didn't know that there's this concept where you can like prototype something and
Right.
put that out in front in the hands of your customer.
Okay. So how did you, leverage past this? How did you know, like, MVP is something that you can utilize for
Honestly,
validation?
a lot of, I would say in my case, a lot of trial and error. I got a lot wrong before I got one thing right. And that
Hmm.
is actually what initially causes your burnout, because you go from saying, hey, I have this super cool idea, I'm going to be the next, like, I don't know, Elon Musk, but then it tanks because you didn't do the work in between to check whether others
Uh,
are finding value in what you're building, are willing to pay money for this, how much are they willing to
hmm.
pay, who else is doing this, or who did it and failed, and then study why they failed. So a lot of the times, even a simple thing like choosing the wrong tech stack, right? When I built our version of our website, we had the worst payment gateway imaginable, and this is in 2014. Honestly, there weren't many options, but
Okay.
the just simple decisions at that point when you're starting out, that I'm building a very basic version of something that I will refine along the way, versus I'm
Mm-hmm.
building the best version but I will not launch till it's 110% ready. You might as well never
Right.
launch then. So you have to kind of find within your limited resources, including funds, right? Your funds are your critical resources. How, what
Hmm.
we call in India jugaad, right? Be creative. So if
Correct.
you have 10,000 rupees to spend for 1 month to test, that 10,000 has to go towards many different things. So be creative in how you allocate your limited time, resources, and your effort in building. So I think
Right.
Many people I've noticed, including a lot of my clients, spend a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot
Mm.
of effort, but with very little outcome because the effort
Yeah.
is all over, there's no kind of logic to why you're doing what you're doing.
Correct. In fact, at the Codework, when we launched the startup ecosystem, we got to interact with a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs or who were already in the business, but they were adding some new feature and all. So, there's this split mindset. Like, suppose instead of investing a certain amount in the development of an MVP, they are actually spending much more on trial and error, right? So
Yeah.
there's this education gap till now where they are not ready to test with an MVP. They are just going there full blown in the market, and then if once it's not validated, they are just losing all their resources. So how would you like to address this section of the people?
It takes a different mindset to talk to a founder who's willing to understand why we kind of say that you have to harness tech, you have to harness AI rather than fearing it. You have to
Correct.
understand that yes, at this stage, nobody is going to fund you unless you demonstrate some ability. So what you
Mm-hmm.
have left is your own expertise, your own self-belief, an MVP that people can test, and possibly a list of maybe under 10 potential customers who find value in what you're building.
Correct.
I like keeping things very simple because what works, you test and then you scale that. And this has worked across many different industries for my clients as well as for myself in the last 10 years. Now, what
Right.
I normally suggest is get into the mindset of everything needs to be tested, validated, and measured. There is, if you try to say that no, there are some things
Mm.
that can't be measured, I now disagree with that. Everything from your logo, right?
Yeah.
Logo to the way that you're building your offering, the scope of what you're offering, if it's a
Mm-hmm.
service, if it's a physical product, like in my case, they're all consumer goods, refine it. And that refinement comes from putting versions out to potential customers and actually asking and listening to what they have to say. If you can do that, and it's very simple, it doesn't cost money, you're
Yeah.
building a version of something that the customer finds value in paying you for. And
Yeah.
that is really what separates a good product, a good brand from something that needs to be sold at 50% off or 80% off and sold to influencers first. If you have a good
Correct.
product and a good solution and you're making life better for somebody who needs this, you don't need to rely on these gimmicks of advertising and doing all these like campaigns. So, at the base of what you're building, you need to remember that the core of your offering has to be solid. And that
Mm-hmm.
core of your offering being solid comes from listening to people giving you feedback on versions that you're testing.
Right, right, absolutely.
You don't need
So,
big funds for this, you don't need a large team. You just need
exactly.
just the ability to take feedback, convert them into insights, and feed it back into your development loop. And I'm saying this works for services, for consumer goods, for anything, whether you're SaaS, whether you're fintech, whether you're as simple as a mom and pop shop, this same
Mm-hmm.
framework works across the board.
Right, and as you just said, this does not require funding. Like, this is also a very huge obstacle that at least, aspiring startups face. Like, they are planning their entire MVP and their entire project. Everything is in place, but then again, they are just stuck in the loop of raising funds instead of, taking that first leap.
Yes. I
So,
In the last 10 years, I've interacted with so many founders, some who are like super successful now and some who have flopped multiple times. Now, go
oh,
back to the ones who have flopped multiple times. I admire their courage to get up again and do it again. But where I
mm-hmm.
feel that, they're making a mistake, they're not learning as to why did I keep failing and why do I keep
Right.
succeeding. The answer is really
Mm-hmm.
simple. You're chasing the wrong goal. Funding works when you have something that's scalable. Think about it. If somebody came to you with an idea for a product, would you even give 100 bucks if you didn't find value in that or you couldn't see a future for growing this? So why will an investor put money into what you're building? I feel
Exactly.
founders are chasing the glory that comes with announcing a fundraise rather than building a really good product.
This is so true. This is so true, actually. And we have actually interacted and we have talked about this, what was misconception a lot, but some of them grasp it, some don't.
Yeah,
So,
and the quickest way sometimes, if you talk to a founder who's running a very highly funded company, just ask them
mhm.
what is your revenue versus and are you profitable?
uh,
These two
Correct.
questions will tell you everything you need to know. You can be the most
Mm-hmm.
highly funded consumer brand, but you will have fake orders. You will be selling at 80% off. You'll be doing all sorts of gimmicks to just build a brand to get a
Mm-hmm.
celebrity endorsement. But you didn't ask your customers, is my product good? Do you find value in paying 399 for what I'm selling? So,
Correct.
just at the
Correct.
core of everything, just build a really good thing that people find value in. That's it. If you can do that, anyone will want to fund you. Funding will be the least of your issues.
Exactly. So yeah, the customer early adopter feedback is prime at this stage, right? At the
Yeah.
initial stages at least. So coming to the next question that I have, Tara, in fact you mentioned AI, right?
Hmm.
So I think last week I was having a chat net on a networking call with someone from LinkedIn, and we were just discussing this, like she has a SaaS platform, okay? And what we were discussing is if she incorporates AI and similar cutting edge technology on the platform, it is a bit easier to market to her existing customers because at present you also have to give in to the market demands, right? So if there is someone who has the SaaS platform of the same industry, the customer, even her existing customer, is getting attracted to the other platform because it has keywords like there's a very small service incorporated, like suppose an AI chatbot or any microservice with AI automation. So this is something that is also propelling the entire startup stage as well. Like we are also getting some calls where people are saying that they are just starting up, but they are confused if they want to incorporate AI in the early stages.
I
So
think
with
you got it.
some,
I think you got
yeah.
it. I think, if you're a solo founder
Mhm.
and maybe you're not even at the stage where you call yourself a founder, you're a full-time corporate person with the aspiration to run something on your own. Now, how do you, somebody asked this question, how can you keep up momentum and stay committed to your startup's vision? I'm saying go a step further back. This is where you leverage AI. You have every weekend free. Use AI to your advantage. Get AI to
Yeah.
nail down who is your ideal customer. One of the hacks that I've been teaching my clients to use is, it's kind of you're psychologically trying to understand the state of mind of your ideal customer, and that feeds into what you're building. This is where,
Yeah.
now if I'm saying that, hey, go out to 10 people, test your MVP, that's time consuming, right? You don't have time maybe on a Saturday or a Sunday to do that. But can AI replace that for you? Can AI
Hmm.
give you, from say, source the internet from, like, say, Reddit, from Facebook,
Yeah.
from forums that are localized to what your offering is, and troll the internet and give me like the top 10 problems in the words that people use for the questions that they're asking.
Hmm.
And once you've got that, can you harness AI to say, now, if these are the 10 most common problems my ideal customer has, can you help me find some kind of a pattern or an analysis of the demographic of this audience? Now, over a weekend, you sit and do this for like 4 hours. You've kind of now validated the fact, and AI is doing this to you, but you got to rely on your own human intelligence to like counteract that and say, wait, is this making sense? So what am I building? Who am I building it for? Why do they want this solution? Now, at this stage where you're not even a solo founder, you're a solo aspiring founder, harness AI, harness all of this to get over the doubt.
Correct.
You don't need
Hmm.
someone to like start building your logos and do all your branding at this stage.
Hmm.
Can you harness AI to build a demo or a prototype of something? You describe it in text. The output of that should be a near real life version of what you're building. Now you can create a landing page with that and test it out. You didn't spend too much money, you just spent time, but you were creative in maximizing your time to get you an outcome that by Sunday night you have a landing page ready, you have Monday to Friday to validate and test. So when people say that, I don't know how to use AI, think, where are you struggling the most? Where can AI help you free up time? Where can AI help you do the task that you thought you had to outsource? So at this stage,
Correct.
when
Correct.
you're ideating or you're alone in the journey, you've not actually gone down the path of, do I get a co-founder? When do I launch? Use AI to back you up.
Yeah.
Make AI your team member. Use AI for
Mhm.
different things.
Correct, correct, correct. And it also, because even for investing a bit on any AI-based microservice, basically you are also, the pros of this process is you're freeing up your time for more productivity and you are focusing on things that need
Yes.
your attention, right?
Yeah.
So,
A very
yeah, that's a
relax.
very.
You know,
Mhm.
um, when you're a solo founder who's already working Monday to Friday, and I'm assuming some of you work Monday to Saturday as well,
Yeah,
all tasks do not deserve the same amount of time, effort, energy, and attention. And all tasks do not
yeah,
contribute at the same weightage to the outcome. So, things that are labor intensive, time intensive, but contribute very little, get AI to do that and do it on repeat. So, it's running on autopilot. If you're trying to validate an idea and you think that I need to every weekend talk to at least 10 potential customers, then I need to sit and transcribe at night who said what. This is like, this is, sorry to say, this is bakwas work. You're wasting your time. There is better
correct.
utilization of your time. So when you're meeting these people, can you log on to Google and record this? Can you then upload your recording and get AI to transcribe it? Now you can do this at scale, right? You don't have to stay up at night transcribing, then sitting and finding patterns. So get AI to do a lot of the work that frees you up to focus on more meaningful tasks. And
Yeah.
one hack I would like to give people here, most activities that you do have a measurable outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Once you can list and prioritize what you need to do to get to stage 2, put a out metric against each of them, and on your own you will be able to now reorder your tasks on priority. So
Right.
this is a
Makes a lot of
very,
sense.
very granular but very simple hack that most founders don't do. I find a lot of the founders who I talk to, they are spending 80% of their time doing tasks that contribute to less than 20%. And I want them to flip it.
Yeah.
So that,
Correct.
and that's why AI is like your best friend. So you have to think of AI as literally like, I will dump everything that doesn't need my intelligence onto you and I will train you to do it on autopilot. That should be your goal with AI.
Correct, correct. And it will also help, like not burn out yourself, right? Because you're working anyway for the rest of the week. So why
Tell
not
me, what
just do
is
it
burnout?
smartly?
Like, when we say burnout, I think it's like now become a term that is, I don't know, overused. What is burnout? Burnout is when you're at the point of, it's a mental health issue. When you're burning out, that level of
Mm-hmm.
stress, it's not healthy. It cannot be, it's like psychologically not healthy, emotionally not healthy. Physiologically, it is probably showing signs on your body that something, you just need to slow down. Now, ask yourself, why am I burning out? What am I doing that I can do
Exactly.
differently that doesn't make me feel this way? And
Mm-hmm.
99% you'll have the answer. You just don't know what to do instead. So
Right.
how can you prevent burnout? I don't know. I'm not the best person to answer that. But structuring your tasks on priority and blocking out time where on Saturday and Sunday, if you're working and you're building this over your weekends, keep
Yeah.
2 3 hours where there is zero disturbance. You don't have your phone, nobody is calling you, you don't have any work. Ideally, you're in a place where you're just like focusing. And what I do, I sit with a large sheet of chart paper and this like trusty pen of mine, and I basically just make mind maps, because a lot of the burnout actually stems from misdirection. I want to be here, I'm doing this, but I'm getting here. That process is leading you to burnout. So have clear blocks of time, focused hours where sometimes you're just ideating, sometimes you're implementing, some weekends you're putting missing pieces in its place so that things work more efficiently for you. So
Mm-hmm.
in many cases I found the easiest thing to do when you think you're burning out is talk to people, seek help. It's not healthy to know that you're burning out and do nothing about it.
Right, right, right. Perfect. Next, I think I will move on to the next part. Basically, like as we are saying, like as we talked about in the earlier segment, like we need an MVP to validate the idea and get the feedbacks from our early adopters, right?
Yeah.
So this is also a very common question, like how do I create that pool of audience or target customers where to whom I can reach out with the product whenever the MVP is ready, or I have added or iterated the MVP with a new feature, and I know that these are like the proper pool of trusted audience whose feedback I can rely on. So how do I create
Very
that pool?
simple. I have a very simple hack for this, and it works
Yeah.
again across the board. I've used it for my own businesses. I tell my clients to also test this.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say that today is day zero, you just have an idea. Now, let's
Yeah.
say that I'm on day five, I have an MVP. I have some sense of who my ideal customer is, right? Now, let's say
Yeah.
for whatever you're building, you decide what is the number of people who you need to get feedback from in order to say that, okay, now I have enough people giving me the same feedback. This is a good number. Like in my case, for my consumer brand, sometimes that is 50, sometimes that is 10, sometimes it's 100. I need 100 people
Yeah.
to test a product and give me feedback before I can move on to saying, I have to fix this or this is ready for launch. Now,
Right.
the real hack in this is you don't need to reach 100 on day one. You need to reach about 10 or 20. You then
Mm-hmm.
incentivize those 10 or 20 to say that if you think that this is good for you, you pass it on to others like you, and I'm going to give you the samples. So, what
Right.
you're doing is you're creating an echo chamber within potential customers without the stress and pressure on you to reach all of them yourself. So again,
Mm-hmm.
it goes back to the core of build a good product, test it out with an early adopters, and this works for anything. Whether you're building a now people will say no, this only works for consumer goods. No, it works for services. You're building an app, it works for that. Get it in the hands of what you are defining as a good lot of initial customers. Those not all of them will be your ideal customers, and not definitely they will all not be your paying customers.
Mm-hmm.
From the lot that's your paying customers, incentivize them. If you're selling something at a very high cost, give them some kind of financial reward. Um, so if someone is selling something that is say some app that costs, I don't know, maybe 500 to download, incentivize them
Yeah.
that every other friend of yours who finds value in using this app downloads it from your link, I will give you something. So you need to create rings of customers. And this is really the simple hack. So you build your MVP, small scale, test it with the initial ring of your early customers, adopters. The lot that's paying lot from there, give them more samples. Now you reach the second ring. Incentivize that lot as well. Now you've reached a third ring. And before you
Huh.
know it, in about a month, you've reached maybe 10x of what you thought that you could reach on your own. And you didn't really pay too much for this. You relied on building a really good product and getting it in the hands of few potential ideal customers. And then they do the rest because your product is good.
That's a very agile approach, Tara. Nice. I really like it myself. Anyway, so
And it works,
the next,
everything I'm
yeah,
saying, I have done. So it is
uh,
easy to say
tried and tested. Yeah,
because normally, people
correct.
will tell you things, but then when you try to implement it, you're like, wait, I fell for that. But
Okay,
um,
okay.
everything I'm telling you guys today, I have done myself, and so have my clients. And I will only tell you what has worked, but also I will tell you what has not worked.
Mm-hmm. Right, right. So, like talking about the entire incentivization. So, what is the best way to, fix a business model? Because that is also something that, startups fight with.
Devanshi, there is no correct business model. There is a correct
Yeah.
business model for what you're doing. Now,
Mm-hmm.
in my world, I run consumer brands. My competitor also runs consumer brands, but our price points
Mm-hmm.
may be different. Our target audience is different. So, my business model of saying I'll only be online and D2C and on a marketplace may not work for someone who's selling to a different audience at a higher price or at a lower price. Maybe they need to be
Yeah.
in the shop. So, two people doing even the exact same thing will not need the same business model. So, the perfect business model for you comes from trying many things and getting a few wrong. And
Mm-hmm.
I think we have to start to embrace failure as stepping stones to getting it right rather than saying that, oh my God, this didn't work, I should just stop.
Yeah. So
So,
it does take a
many,
lot of strength also, because people are it depends on their structure of thought as well, because a lot of people are confident and most of them are not.
you know,
So
it is
yeah.
that confidence comes from the ability to separate yourself from what you're building. You may
Mm-hmm.
be an amazing human, you may be a very friendly person, but you may be a really shitty employer. Not everybody knows how to lead. And so you have to separate what you're building, or you may build a version of a product that nobody likes. That doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you a bad entrepreneur. If you can
Mm-hmm.
harness that failure to be like, hang on, I got a lot wrong. Now let me figure out what went wrong to make it right. That is the difference between someone who will succeed versus someone who will give up. It is that ability to kind of go beyond what didn't work and to separate yourself from it. I've had so many business failures, they didn't even get to launch. But I used to sometimes internalize saying that I'm really bad at this, like maybe I should just go back and get a job. Then I started to
Okay.
realize, I may be a bad founder in building that product, but that doesn't make me a bad founder in like the sense of the word. So at some point, you have to put some kind of a boundary between who you are and what you're building. And the earlier you can do that, your chances of burning out and your mental health going down the toilet will be avoided.
Mm.
And these are
So
things
that's
people don't talk
like
about.
this is the best kind of response I've heard for this question, because have you tried for TED Talks? Because this is like the best version of answer, because it's very easy to tell the generalized versions, like how to deal with failure. But just segmentizing myself from what I'm building, that is a very good approach, and I think I will talk about this more with people who contact me or on
Yeah.
the same topic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
See,
yeah.
look, at the end of the day, we're all humans, right? We all are building something because there's this desire to, in many ways, leave a legacy, right? Now, why do
Mhm.
people take to entrepreneurship? Like, are they mad? Do they want like the sleepless nights, the high stress? Why would they give up a safety net of a corporate job? Because there is something inside them that says that there is more to me. There is more to me
Yeah,
that wants to give out to the world. And when you have a failure, that setback is huge. Now that can crush
yeah.
people or it can propel people. The way that it
Mm-hmm.
propels people is those people who are able to say that I'm going to move ahead because I'm going to study what went wrong.
Yeah,
That's fine to fail. I failed so many times, and I don't understand why founders hide all of this. There should be no shame in saying that I failed so many times. I'm kind of proud about it. That at least I will not make
mm-hmm.
that same mistake again. I will keep making new mistakes, but I will not make those same mistakes.
Yeah. Great. And on the same context, suppose someone is a confident person overall, and that person has, two or three ideas which he or she is very confident about. However, like they need to test or start with one of these ideas at present, the first step while handling a 9 to 5 job. So, how do they prioritize which idea is going to work because they are passionate about all the three ideas?
So normally I say have the ability to come down to two ideas. One is the one that I say you're going to test, and one is your backup one if you need to pivot. Um,
Okay.
Anything more than two ideas is honestly very tricky. I would
Mhm.
actually say in your two ideas, you've got to be really clear about which one is your primary one. You can't keep swaying here and there. And once you're really clear, you got to start to find. information to validate. You have a hypothesis, right? Your idea is a hypothesis. Now
Mm-hmm.
let's say that I have this belief that AI, there's room for an AI tool for all the people who have
Yeah.
joined this webinar today,
Mm-hmm.
to work for 3 or 4 hours every Saturday, and that will keep bringing them 1% closer to their goal of starting something in 100 days. So at the end of
Yeah.
100 days, it is my hypothesis that all the people who start today, or tomorrow, 100 days from today, they should all be launching something. Now, what does it take to go from having so many ideas to launching in 100 days? It is the clarity. That clarity comes from doing market research. And market research is not just industry statistics. People go
Yeah.
online, go on Bloomberg, and they find really nice charts and they make a Google deck, and then they ask for funding. No, you gotta actually talk to people who are your customers. Like, it's not enough to
Correct.
say that I'm gonna launch a fashion brand. Fashion is an industry. What are you gonna do in fashion? Who's paying you money for this? Are your clients men, women? What kind of people are they? Where do they shop? Who's your competition? Who failed? Who's done it well? Where are you going to have your own manufacturing? Will you get it outsourced? Are you going to drop ship? That clarity then will lead you to developing an MVP that is very close to what you will probably launch. So
Okay.
don't play around. Have a place where you jot down all your ideas, but have a
Mm-hmm.
metric in place to prioritize your ideas. Have one core idea and one as a backup. That's it. Don't complicate life.
That's a good summary. So, yeah, talking of, balancing and especially when we are talking about a job and handling an idea and the entire algorithm that goes with it, how does one, okay, I'll start with your experience. What has been your experience in balancing work and a startup idea?
To be honest, the word is imbalance. I was not very balanced to begin with.
Oh,
To be honest,
God.
I've been doing
Yeah.
it for 10 years, so I'm a little bit ahead of the curve, but
Uh,
I think that it is good for people to establish boundaries. It is not okay to just be like, hey, I'm going to make this my life. It's not worth it,
hmm.
so you gotta define that I work 9 to 5 at a job that pays me a salary. Saturdays and Sundays are mine. I Whatever I'm hoping to build, I will build on a Saturday and a Sunday. On a Saturday, I will work on this idea for 3 hours. On a Sunday, I will work max 2 hours. Don't do more than that. So be very
Yeah.
clear. You need a life, because you're human. You can't
Hmm.
just like build in a dark room and not meet people and not talk to people and make this your life, because then honestly you're building in a vacuum. And
Yeah.
part of being a balanced person as a entrepreneur is to exist with others. And a lot of the times, like honestly, two of my brands that are doing really well now have come
Yeah.
from talking to strangers randomly on weekends.
Ah.
And that validation then gave me like the idea that hang on, if a stranger's telling me there's merit, I have to run with this idea. But
Hmm.
you have to strike a balance in chasing your goals as well, right? Otherwise, you kind of lose all balance. So you
Right. Right.
need to define boundaries, things that you're passionate about, make time for them. Work is not your entire life and your identity. If you like to draw, you like to read, people who like to paint, they play a sport. I like to go trekking as well. Make time for all of that, because that is what makes you a good founder. Not just somebody sitting and coding for 20 hours in a flat, not interacted with a human in 40 hours, not had a bath. These are not things that are signs of a healthy human.
Mm-hmm. Correct. Correct. So, talking of, maximizing the, allotted time on weekends, do you have any productivity hacks that you would like to share?
Do I have any productivity?
Hacks.
For me, the biggest game changer for the last, and I would say COVID, I have to thank COVID for this, is learning how to create time blocks on my calendar.
Okay.
I used to be a colored post-it person back in the day. Then I
Uh-huh.
discovered on Google Calendar, and I'm sure people know this hack, you color code your time blocks. And the
Mm-hmm.
first thing I do when I start my day is I see that calendar, and it reminds me that I have 2 hours of focus time every day in the morning. I will not do any meetings. I will not talk to people.
Mhm.
I'll keep my phone off. I'll try and like not have too many browser tabs open. I'll just for those 2 hours focus. And then there are days when I do no meetings. So you have to
Mhm.
build a calendar for yourself where these hacks are becoming your daily habit. And it's very simple actually. It takes about 10-12 days to get used to it. By the end of the month, you'll be like, shit, why didn't I do this earlier? And you just kind of, you're buying
Okay.
time for yourself to do things that you
Yeah.
have to do without compromising
Mhm.
on showing up at work, doing the thing that needs to get done, taking care
Yeah.
of your family, your home, running the house, all the other stuff, traveling. So just prioritize your own time. Don't let other people own your time.
Exactly. Why I ask this is basically again through the startup ecosystem. Like, so-
Yeah.
hello?
Yeah. Sorry, I lost you.
Yeah, I was just checking the power here. Anyway, okay. So why I was asking you about this is basically again through the startup ecosystem, like we got to connect with a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs themselves. And what we came across is, once people who are, juggling between work and an idea, once they see that, their side hustle or the time that they're giving to the startup idea, once it seeps into their work and it's hampering their workflow at the job or anything like that, any kind of negative effect, they just snap out of it. So this is a very common thing that we have had conversations on Instagram as well. So yeah, that's the thing.
Tell
So
me more about
uh,
like what kind of conversations?
as in, just the basic thing, like they had been spending time on the idea or, simple task before we, build an MVP for them. We sit with the founders and, shortlist the USP, the features they want.
Yeah.
And yeah, so just to do that part, you need a lot of research to, shortlist the features that you want to validate, right? So even for that, there was a very much timeline gap that they were having, and they did not, they could not balance the time for research and their work because there was pressure at the job, and a lot of them have, snapped out of it, or maybe they have said, "See, I have to stall this for some months because this meeting is coming up, this goal is coming up." So that's the balance that a lot of them lack. So it's really sad.
When comes back to the clarity issue, right? If you're kind of once you start to build the MVP and talk to people, like I'm not saying you're collecting on a survey form or something, actually talk to them. A lot of your
Mhm.
doubts about the effectiveness of what you're building will start to come from your customers. The closer you get to building a version of something that they value and that solves a problem immediately that they have, you've just
Hmm.
refined your product. And I noticed that a lot of founders, and I have some friends who are in this same scenario that you just said,
Yeah.
you know, don't collect data for the sake of collecting data just to say that I validated it. That's not validation. That's
Mm-hmm.
just waste of time. The right time to
Okay.
start to collect, there are three or four critical time periods. One is when you have multiple ideas. Your first challenge is exactly what I said, right? Bring it down to two: one core idea, one idea in case you pivot. That's critical. That also comes from talking to people. Everything cannot just only be validated by Google and online, right? You have to talk to humans as well. Now,
Mm-hmm.
stage two, now you've got to the point where few people know about what you're building, what your offering is, who does it target? Because those people need to see, people only find value in paying for something when they have a problem for which they're looking for a solution. And for the solution in exchange, they are willing to pay a sum of money. At that stage,
Right.
when you should start building your MVP. So your second level of
Mm-hmm.
gathering information, validating, finding insights is at that stage. Your third stage is at launch or a soft launch.
Yeah.
Now you're like,
Mm-hmm.
you've completely told the market, now I exist, here's my product, here's my label, I'm trademarking it, I'm like making
Mm-hmm.
myself available. Now you're talking to a different audience. You're actually talking to more people who are your paying customers. So
Okay.
people who are getting stuck and validating things and getting, stuck in this loop, that there is a
Mm-hmm.
match between what they need to be doing versus what they're actually doing. And that
Right.
you can call it disconnectedness between the two is what makes them give up.
Oh,
Keep going back to asking yourself, why am I doing this? Why am I building this? Who am I doing it for? Why should my customer even care that I exist and let alone pay me money for this?
got it. Got it. And again, Tara, talking about, existing with others, it's a phrase that you just said in the earlier segment. I would like to know from you, how much do you value the importance of networking and partnerships when you are a solo entrepreneur?
A lot.
Correct.
In I was telling you earlier, I've lived in Bangalore 12 years. Out of my 12 years,
Okay.
I've been an entrepreneur 10 years. There is
Mm-hmm.
no chance that I would have made it even to year one had it not been for people helping me. But as a founder, you have to let go of your personal baggage of saying, I know everything. No, you don't. You're starting from
Mm-hmm.
minus one, not even zero. Learn to ask the right people for help. You'll be surprised at how many people will help you. We,
Right.
especially to people who are in senior corporate roles, your expertise, your level of knowledge, your just the wealth of information that you've got in all these years in working, it doesn't make you a small person to ask for help for starting something new. Let go of that baggage of what will they say, what will they think, I look stupid.
Hmm.
In your initial years, a lot of your founder problems are solved by asking people for help. And the ecosystem, honestly, it is so giving. You just have to show up and ask. It is, like people say, oh, women founders, they don't support each other. No, I've got so much support in the last 10 years from people I didn't even know, from strangers. But somebody connected us to somebody who solved a problem for me. And a lot
Yeah.
of my success I would credit to just showing up for networking things and asking. Have a very clear ask. If you have a very clear ask, you're enabling the other person to help you. If you're vague
Right.
and you don't know and this and that, that other person is like, you yourself are confused and don't know what to ask for. How will I ever help you, even if I'm the person to help you? So, in your initial years, especially for people who are hearing this now, while you have a corporate job and you're building something on the weekends, start to network, build your network. You need three kinds of people in your network at this stage: somebody who is a founder who is many years ahead of you, make them teach you the way of what it takes to go from minus one to two. That's it. That is their job. And then choose people who are not only going to say all the good things. You need to get people who will tell you the reality. This is going to fail.
Yeah.
Doing this right. You're doing that wrong. What you're doing right, scale it. Do it faster with less money. Talk to more people. Five people saying that this works doesn't mean that it'll work. That's
Hmm.
like your mentor, your advisor, somebody who's a founder who's a couple of years ahead of you. Then get a whole bunch of your early customers to become your, I like to call them evangelists. They will not
Okay.
mince their words, they will be loyal because they have known you even before you were formally launched. Keep
Mm-hmm.
them in your journey, don't forget them, because if they hadn't put faith in what you were building, you're never going to make it too far. So your early customers, treat them with a lot of respect. um, and the third, I would say, sometimes it's good to be friends with people who are completely different from what you're doing, because you need that. Not
Uh,
Don't only be in an echo chamber where all founders who are all building the same thing talk to each other. No, that's not very helpful. So I made it
yeah.
a point to interact with founders who I had nothing in common with, and I probably don't
Mm-hmm.
even understand what they're building, but they were very good people.
Right.
And they gave very unbiased feedback in whatever it is that I was trying to do. Even though they'll never be my customer, they'll never buy from me, they'll never be my competition either. But just the fact that
Mm-hmm.
they were honest and brutal, and we could share all our highs, our lows, our frustrations. These are the
Yeah.
kind of people you need. at this early
That's really
stage.
nice.
Them carefully, and don't be too late in picking them. This is the right time to start to get them in your circle.
Correct. So this was a part about networking and talking about partnerships. Let's even if I think that someone is starting from a business coach like you yourself. So there are people who are confused about finding the right person to consult with.
Yeah,
Same comes with technology vendors. Like when people are talking to us about MVP and how we build it for them, they're also talking to different other vendors, right? So any advice on how to finalize who is good for you and who actually understands your goals and your perspectives of
I
the
can only
business?
speak from my experience. So it
Yeah.
took me many mistakes in partnering with wrong vendors, having the wrong coaches. See, there's nothing wrong in them. There was nothing wrong in me. We were not the right
Hmm.
fit together.
Okay.
And one of the ways to kind of find in any partnership, you both have to have something that you bring to the table. Otherwise, it's not an equal partnership. Um,
Yeah.
Same for when you're working with a vendor. I never work with any vendor for like a short term thing. Most of the people who we worked with, we have worked for years on end because you have
Hmm.
to have a slightly long term approach to thinking of your partnership with them. Um, and especially people who are looking at building something as a freelancer, keep this in mind. Don't just think of each project as, okay, I got paid, I deliver the work, I'm done. Start to build relationships. The client on the other end
Hmm.
today has come to you with a maybe a project that for you is very small, but they may be also testing you out, right? So if you build a
Yeah.
partnership, a working partnership, there is so much potential to grow that. And I've
Hmm.
seen in my own case, I've made many mistakes in choosing the wrong vendors because I went for value. I went on price.
Okay.
And in many cases,
Hmm.
I have had to bite the bullet because it was far more effective for me to actually go with the more expensive person than the cheaper one. So, we Indians are very value conscious. And when we use the word value, that is a nice way of saying price,
Yeah.
you know? So,
Perfect. Yeah.
don't, when you, even if it's a small assignment and you're not charging much or you're not paying much to that vendor, try to have pick the person who you think that you can work with for many years to come.
Correct.
And especially people who are freelancing, you need to have clients who will give you recurring revenue, and those are the clients who will
Hmm.
refer you. I'm an accidental business coach. I never intended to be a business coach.
Hmm.
What I used to do, which now is called coaching, was help women like me start a business of their own. And I used to do it pro bono for many years till I realized what I was doing made me a coach. My
Ah.
entire coaching business, 99.9% of it grew just from referrals. I never advertised
Yeah.
it because I wasn't a coach. It was just if I managed to help someone even 1%, and if they
Hmm.
thought that their life was better working with me, they referred me to someone else. I didn't ask them, and it was like an unsaid thing. And so that's really how I became a coach. So that is like networking and partnership built on a slightly longer term approach. But there,
Got it. Got it.
focus on the person. You have to take time out to nurture those relationships. It can't only be transaction.
Hmm.
And you have to invest in getting to know the human on the other side.
Yeah, of course. And it's a bit difficult as well. Since as you said, like in India especially, value comes it's prior to anything else.
Yeah.
Especially when starting a business because obviously you have limited resources, right? So it's difficult to think in that long-term algorithm instead of just thinking about okay, this project or this collaboration will give me value.
Little bit is
So,
trial and error as
yeah,
well. Little bit is trial and error. But rather than committing to something very long term at a high cost, do take some baby steps. See how it's going and take baby steps with maybe two or three vendors. Then pick the one that you're most
mm,
comfortable with. Look, at the end of the day, despite even if you're building anything in tech, you're still interacting with a human. So the tech
correct,
may be amazing, your product may be amazing, you may be super well funded, but if you don't have good relations with another human on the other end, you're not going to progress much.
True.
This lady asked a question which I think we should touch upon. Chaitra, how did you approach the decision between self-funding versus seeking external funding? This is like a topic very close to my heart. Any advice on the pros and cons of each part? I'm a bootstrapped founder, and for my lifetime, I think I will remain like that. But these are choices that you need to make. Why I wanted to take your question on is, in all the glorification of seeking external funding, please come back to the core of what you're doing. You are parting with something that was your baby to somebody who has zero skin in the game but has money. So, my biggest advice and the only one line of advice is be careful. If that person only has money but no skin in the game in helping you grow, then you're better off being self funded. It is better to have slow organic growth than to have somebody else tell you how to build it, what you should do, with most likely not much knowledge in your space, not will not appreciate the journey that went into your going from idea to launch. So as far as possible, as your business can support it, please do try to remain bootstrapped. A founder who runs a bootstrap company, in my mind, deserves more respect than somebody who is burning someone else's money with very little accountability. It's as simple.
That is something even we advise to our clients. That's
Yeah.
very,
Don't mind, I'm
like, we're
drinking
on the same page.
coffee. Yeah.
No, no. Actually, I want to go to the question and answer
Yeah,
segment after I
there
finish
were some
my
really
questions.
good ones. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just move on to this. I have just last two questions for you, Tara, and then we can slide here. So the next thing is, at what point should one fully transition from their job to the,
Only
startup
when,
that they're building?
very simple. When you're you want to call it side hustle, main hustle, weekend hustle, I'll call it solo business. And I even call
Mm-hmm.
it solo weekend business. When your solo business is able to generate 70 to 80% of what you're currently making, at that point and that point
Oh,
only
okay.
take a call.
Okay.
Not even at
That's
50%, because 50% is not a good indicator of anything. It can go this way, it can go that way. When you're at the 70 to 80%, then honestly ask yourself. And you'll be
okay.
surprised. Some businesses can remain on autopilot and really grow. They don't actually need your involvement 5 days a week.
Hmm. Okay. So, another thing is, like from the feedback that they are getting from, the MVP that they have launched,
Yeah.
there can be, suppose I'm starting with a very small number. So they have gotten 10 feedback, and if I go in a very hypothetical sense, five of them have validated the idea, and five have said that this is not something that they would pay for. So
You're
how
talking
do they
about like
decide?
a product, some kind of a
Yeah?
app or something. Like, what is the product that they're building?
It can be anything. Like, I'm just talking about the idea here.
Okay.
So five of them has validated and five have clearly rejected for, they don't want to pay for such a feature or such a product. So how in such a situation should one decide on?
If they would like to waste time, effort, and money and not know and launch without knowing, go for it. But the people who validate are, in my
Yeah.
mind, 95% more likely to not just launch successfully, but scale.
Hmm.
One thing to launch, it's another thing to scale. The people who are
Right.
thinking that they don't need to validate, that's fine, that's your call. But when you get to a stage where you're unable to scale, that is because you didn't validate. You don't actually know what it takes to go from 5 to 500.
No, I was asking from the pool of target audience. Suppose five people have validated that yes, this is something that we will pay for, and five people are saying that we wouldn't pay for such a product or such a feature. So at that time, how does the founder decide like
So I've been
which?
in that situation. I actually have been in
Oh,
a worse situation. I've had more people tell me
okay.
that this is crap than one or two people say
Oh,
this is merit. And yet we
okay.
launched and then we won an award for that. So
Oh,
some of it is madness, some of it is like actual belief. Sometimes we also end up asking the wrong people. Now, you don't only want to validate with
hmm.
people who are likely to say yes. What we did
Huh.
from the lot that said no, we actually made a consumer panel, an in-house consumer panel. Yes, it is very, it's not money expense, like it's not expensive in terms of money, it's expensive in terms of your time and effort. Now, not every
Right.
brand or business or solo founder has the ability to do this, but I highly, highly recommend that you think along these lines. When
Okay.
customers are telling you no, ask them what could be better, what could be different.
Hmm.
Ask them to join you in the design or development stage,
Yeah.
because they may be rejecting a current version of it, not the idea or the ethos behind it. So when you get a
Hmm.
validated that I will not pay for it, will you not pay for it at this price, in this version of it? What could be different? What could be better? Some of the best brands in the world today sell products that are like maybe a fifth or a sixth iteration.
Yeah.
Especially a lot of,
Okay.
especially a lot of the smart watches that everyone is wearing. I can 100% guarantee you that the version of what you're buying and wearing is not the version that they actually designed.
Hmm. Of
So
course.
you
Okay.
have to think of these as loops in the journey. Don't get set back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's very hard to hear a no, but delve deeper. What no for what? What could be different? What could be better? What could be an alternate? And
Yeah.
many of these rounds, like there's a brand of mine where six of our logos got rejected, and we had filed a trademark for one of them because we were so confident. But
Okay.
it's a beauty brand for teenage girls, and
Hmm.
selling anything to a teenage girl, they're quite a difficult audience, even though they don't pay for it, their parents pay for the product. Our
Correct.
consumer panel sometimes, and I was then in my early 30s, it was quite not the best feeling to be rejected by like so many young girls, and you're like, wait, I know I'm,
Seriously.
why do you not find value in it? And then you realize they want a smaller version, they want a different shade,
Oh.
a combo pack. They want
Okay.
something they can take to school. It's not like they were rejecting
Hmm.
the idea of a beauty brand for teen girls. They were rejecting the version of what we put in front of them. And
Got
yes,
it.
that's the brand
Yeah.
that I'm talking about. So it was maybe the logo that you will see now in the market is the seventh one. There were six that were rejected. There was a trademark application
Okay.
that had to be recalled. So
Oh God.
get bogged down every time a customer says no, this is not good. Ask them what do I have to do to make it better.
Got it. Got it. So basically, ask more questions, right?
Keep asking. I'm the coach that
Yeah.
will tell you keep hounding your customers till they love what you're building.
Correct. So, Tara, I'll move on to the questions that we have
Sure.
collected here.
There's quite a
So,
few, so why don't you pick and I'll be happy to take a shot at them.
yes, I'm doing that. So, yeah, this is very interesting according to me. Like, what are the early signs of failure, or when can we pivot from the early stage? How do we know?
Is there a way that we can get the person who asked this question to come and like share their view?
No, I
Okay.
can't add them right now.
Maybe
Yeah.
Biswajit, you can quickly type it in. What would you, let me ask you this. What according to you is the first sign of failure at this early
Uh,
stage?
Basically, even after validation, I'm not able to sell the product, or people are not using it even after validation. For me, it would be that.
I go one step further. Any founder
What?
for me, when I talk to them and they're too married to an idea, that is the first step
Hmm.
of failure because they are already
Ah.
able to separate themselves from a version of the idea. They are, and these are the people I'm sure who are resistant to validating because they don't want to know what the other person feels. They have got too married to the idea. So
Hmm.
honestly, for me, after having met so many founders, interacted, and been one so many times myself, the
Hmm.
earliest sign of failure is getting too married to an idea at an early stage. Don't. You gotta like be able to say, this idea was really nice when it came to me. Let it just remain that. I'm not gonna take this further.
Hmm. Okay. I hope this answers the question.
Any first signs of resistance to validate is a bit of a red flag.
Okay. Okay. Um, I'll move on to the next question. It is a bit on the tech side. So basically, it's like how can someone with minimal tech experience identify like which are the most critical tech solutions or features for a startup's growth? Maybe we can constrain this to an
I think
MVP for a
Devanshi,
digital
you should
product.
answer. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, what I can say is, talk to the right people like tech consultants and take their advice. And, if needed, talk to various people in the same field and understand, what they are saying. Because if you have minimal tech experience, you have to go by what the, people in the field are saying, right?
Yeah.
So that's a very short thing to do, and we would be very happy to help if someone is like in this slot. Um, okay, next is okay. Okay, next is how will you build and scale your team to support your company's growth? So I think we have moved a bit ahead of
But
solo
I like this
entrepreneurs
question.
here.
Can I? Yeah, I was just going to say, why do you need a team? You don't need a team.
Yeah.
This is also a misconception.
Okay.
There are in the last, I would say, 4 months, I've worked with about three founders who they're most of my clients are in Europe and US. They are like very senior people in the consulting space. They have led
Mm-hmm.
teams of up to 120 people. There's one client of mine who led about a 200 member team, and now they're building something completely by themselves. And it is the scariest thing that they have done in their life after getting married, I think. That uh, you don't need a team to.
Yes.
Why do you need a team unless you have roles and work for somebody at this stage of starting up? You don't
Mm-hmm.
need a team. You need different people to do different things for a limited time period. Like, you will need a lawyer for a specific amount of work. You will need a chartered accountant. You will probably need a designer. You will need a tech person. You will need a sales and marketing person. But you don't need all of them 30 days a month. Unless you are at a stage where you are now exponentially scaling, I would like people to start to think of solo entrepreneurship as a team effort. You are playing many roles. Your job is in finding the right freelancer or the right fractional person to come work with you. We got to move away from having very large teams. Honestly, it's not needed.
Okay.
What I would
Right.
instead advise you, Sonam, is invest in technology. You said it yourself. Invest in technology, invest in tools to support your own business operations. Learn how you can build and scale this in a way where these technology and tools replace your need to have a team.
Right. Right. Okay. Okay. Next question is about networking. So, can you suggest some networking techniques to advertise startups and give mentorship?
Yeah, so going back to what I said, start to cultivate people in your network, reach out to them, ask them. But my one single advice to everybody, whether it's networking or not, is please learn how to have a very clear one sentence ask. When I was building one of my brands, I knew that I wasn't going to go down and ask for funding, but I wanted to be in a room where those investors would be. So I used to go around asking people, when you have like your VC conference or something, can I just
Mm-hmm.
come and attend and sit at the back? I just wanted to know what are the parameters for evaluating success for funding today. And as a
Right.
bootstrap entrepreneur, do I function and think the same way? So, Mayank, l- please learn how to have a very, very clear ask, one sentence. What do you want? Why do you want it? And who is the ideal person to help you get this? If you can do that and ask people, even if Devanshi and I are not the right people, but your ask is so clear, when we meet that right person, we will remember, hey, Mayank had asked me this, and this is what he needed, and that's why he wanted it.
Mm.
You've just helped me connect you to someone else. So, one of the best networking techniques is to have very clear asks. It should be measurable. It should clearly
Right.
define who you are, why you want the help, and what is the outcome of this. If you can do that in one sentence, that is, I mean, that's more than what any networking event will do for you in 1 or 2 years.
Right. Right.
Then I have another
Basically having,
humorous one. Um,
yeah.
Choose the networking events where they have good food, because otherwise, trust me, if there's nothing else that's going to come out of it, you should have at least had good chai, coffee, and a snack.
Okay, okay. So basically, having a clarity and attending networking events with good food, right?
Yes.
Okay. So the next one is about staying committed, and I think it's about productivity. So how can you keep up with momentum and
I
stay
think this
committed to
one is
your
answered. My only advice
yes,
here would be just make blocks of time for yourself. Whatever works for you, but be consistent. Don't cheat because you're not fooling anyone except yourself. Try this out. Make blocks of time in your calendar.
right? Okay. Um, okay. The next one is okay. I have another question about motivation, so I'm just skipping that because yeah, yeah. Okay, this one is about understanding and deciding if you should start alone or with a co-founder. So, what do you
There's no
think?
there's no right or wrong to this. Normally, anyone I advise on seeking a co-founder, get a
Yeah.
co-founder who has complementary skill sets, not the same as you, because that's
Hmm.
not adding value. A company doesn't benefit from having two founders with the same skill set.
That's actually very strategic also.
Yeah,
So,
because look,
yeah,
ultimately, you're building something that's going to be larger than you alone. And if you have a co-founder, you're building something together that will be larger than both of you. So if you both are
yeah.
very similar, neither of you is going to enjoy the journey that much.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And there is something about freelancing as well. So, the best piece of advice you can give to someone starting the journey as a freelancer.
So Abhijit, I will actually give you one plus one free because you didn't ask me for two. I'll give you two anyway. The best piece of advice you would give: cultivate relationships. Don't just look at how
Yeah.
much I'm charging, how much are they asking for a discount. If you think that there's a client worth having 5 years from today and they're being cheap and asking for a discount, do it for free. They'll remember that. You've got
Hmm.
to, one of the biggest things that freelancers don't take into account is the time that you spend on doing business development. And that is, for most freelancers, not their core skill. And I'm guessing you're probably a freelancer in somewhere in the design space or tech space. It is not your job to be doing BD and sales and marketing. It is your job to be creating the output. Building relationships enables you to have recurring revenue. It gives you more time to do what you love to do and it pays you. So when you're dealing with a customer who you think is an ideal customer and has long term potential, but they're being finicky on the price, come even lower than what they're asking.
Right. And I think this is the last question that I'm taking here. So basically, it's about suppose someone wants to launch an AI based startup. So it is a startup based on AI technology. Now AI resources are capital intensive. So how do they fund such a project? So would you
AI
like to take this?
resources, all
Yeah.
versions of AI resources are free as well. Use the free one till you find use for paying for it. I hate wasting money on things that I'm not sure I'll need even 3 months from now. Um, when you're starting out as a solo founder, and this is my free advice to all of you who are thinking, and I'm hoping that after today you will spend at least half an hour tomorrow on a Saturday building something. Spending money does not equal getting results.
Mm-hmm.
Spending money is not always the right answer. Go with the free stuff, make it work for you till it reaches a point where now you need to scale and pay. Don't just go for anything paid.
But I think this question is more about, suppose an AI-based solution that, or a AI-based SaaS product that they are launching. So for that, I think Dara, they need to invest in the
That
initial
you need.
stages.
Of course you do.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, my advice here, what we advise at the Codework is basically start with the discovery phase.
Yes.
There for a certain timeline and investment,
Yeah.
you're evaluating the risks,
Yeah.
the goals, the and
Have
the vendors, and
measurable
you are
have
yeah.
measurable outcomes at each stage to know if it's worth continuing, scaling up,
Exactly.
scaling down, changing the strategy. But
Mm-hmm.
I've found in India, and this is, I'm like calling it out. This is an Indian way of doing business कि
Yeah.
फ्री है हम स्क्वीज कर लेंगे फिर उसके बाद पे नहीं करेंगे. There's a lot of
Yeah.
functionality that you're leaving on the table and not wanting to pay. So, there's this English phrase that's called being penny wise and pound foolish. A lot
Yeah.
of people are guilty of this, including me.
Ah,
So,
okay.
if there is a need for you to spend money to get to a certain level, spend it, but have a
Exactly.
outcome, defined outcome, that I'm putting in
Hmm.
$100 for one day. I expect that the effort of putting in this 100 will give me this X return. Define that.
Yeah.
Then you know how close you were to it or how far off you are. For everything that you're doing, even from tomorrow, if you're sitting and just validating your ideas, put measurable outcomes to every activity that you do. It will change your life.
Basically concentrating on ROI, right?
Yeah.
Because
Time is
yeah.
also worth measuring. Most of us think ki time is free. Time is not free.
Correct, correct. So basically, yeah, that's the entire goal of discovery phases. Like, especially if you're starting with a very capital intensive project, you know the resources will need you to fund it. So
Yeah.
the discovery phase will at least help you evaluate and understand the ROI, the goals, the risks. So it's the
Yeah.
best way to start
Yeah.
an AI intensive
Can I ask
project.
one question? Everyone asked me.
Yeah.
Can I ask one?
Yeah, sure.
The chat box, everybody who has up to two ideas or three ideas, can you just write yes?
Mm,
Actually, sorry, I lied. I have two questions. This is one. So,
yeah, I'm not.
everybody who has more than one or two ideas, just say yes in the chat box. Nobody has any ideas. Or maybe they're too
No,
scared.
I'm not sure. I don't know. But you can anyway go on because I am going to send this to people who are not attending. So maybe someone from there has
So,
multiple ideas.
the follow-up question to this would have been, what is stopping you from taking your ideas further? What is your number one hurdle? And I guarantee you it's
Yeah.
not money for most people. It's not even time. I think, would you like to take a guess what it is, Devanshi? It's not, I'm telling you this after coaching for many years now. It is not time and it is not money.
It's the fear of failure?
Yes, you nailed it.
Ah, oh God.
लोग क्या
Okay.
बोलेंगे? That thing of log kya
Hmm.
bolenge, oh my God. Like, if there was a way for me to erase that feeling altogether, the number of people who would start tomorrow if they let go of this log kya bolenge. Nobody cares. Nobody has time to care. But you have to care about your own self, what you want.
Hmm.
And really, the only thing coming in the way between today attending this webinar, taking out 1.5 hours of your life to possibly solve this problem, the only thing that's really holding you back is your own self belief.
Correct. Confidence, as we talked about.
It's not just confidence. Just don't care what people will think. What do you have to lose? You do nothing on weekends. Fear of what? What do you have this fear of? You're not even spending that much time. I'm definitely going to advise against spending too much money. So what is the fear? It
Hmm.
is the fear of failure. Who cares? Maybe you'll fail, but next time if you get it right, then
Yeah. See, this is the very logical thing to say and do, but it's a very difficult move for a lot of people,
yes,
especially in India. Log kya kahenge is a key phrase.
you don't even
So
need to quit. You don't even need to quit.
that's the main thing here. Yeah.
So I
So
didn't have that option when I started. And so that's why
yeah.
I'm just like, please, guys, Saturdays and Sundays, leverage your weekends. I'm not asking you to do too much, max 4 hours of your life, 4 times a month. I think you can make time for that.
Hmm.
It's 2 hours on a Saturday and maybe 1 hour on a Sunday. Like, okay, I brought it down to
Yeah.
3 hours every weekend. Watch little less TV, go out for dinner 1 hour later.
Yeah. It is definitely doable, right? 3 hours
Really doable.
in a weekend. Of course, of course. Very practical timing there. But Yeah, I think we had a very nice session, Tara. It's lovely talking to you.
Thank you, Devan.
So,
Thank you.
yes.
Enjoyed it as
So,
well.
okay. So before, logging off, do you have any final advice for the people who are attending the webinar or who will watch it later?
See, if you've reached this far, you've taken out about 1 hour and 19 minutes of your life, and I'm guessing this means something to you. So, my only
Yeah.
advice on a Saturday morning, sit with a piece of paper, list down all the ideas that you have, look at it on Sunday, and on Monday, bring it down to just two ideas and pick one that you will run with. After 100 days, reach out to me on LinkedIn only to say that you have launched. If you have not launched, I don't want to hear from you.
Okay.
Launch
Like,
just the
lovely.
basic version of this, even if it's just a website, it's an Instagram page. You talk to five people and you made something by hand because you don't want to spend money on making an MVP. Just start. Just start.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's the most difficult step, actually.
Actually, looking back, that you're right, it is the hardest, but you will start to enjoy it as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course.
Yeah. And I'm there
Mm,
for any advice, any, people you want to reach out to me on LinkedIn, you have questions, just please feel free. My goal is to just have more and more people turn to entrepreneurship. It's as simple as that.
yeah. Anyway. Okay, Tara, I don't have any more questions, and I think
So
it's a
thanks
wrap
everyone who
right
have
now.
liked to join us. I hope that you leave with a little bit more clarity, little less doubt. Yeah.
Of course. Okay, then. Have a good day. Bye bye.
Bye.